Here's today's In Touch devotion.
Today's abridged scripture reading begins in Joshua, chapter 3, and continues into chapter 4. Beginning in verse 14 of this passage, we find the people of Israel about to cross the Jordan River into the Promised Land, and God has miraculously carved a dry path across the river. Verse 17. And the priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel crossed on dry ground, until all the nation had finished crossing the Jordan. Now when the entire nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, "Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from each tribe, and command them, saying, Take up for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priests' feet are standing firmly, and carry them over with you, and lay them down in the encampment where you will spend the night." Joshua carried out God's instructions, telling the men in verse 6 of chapter 4, "This shall be a sign among you, when your children ask later, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall say to them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall become a memorial to the sons of Israel forever." We then read that the men complied. Verse 9. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, at the place where the feet of the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing, and they are there to this day. For the priests who carried the Ark were standing in the middle of the Jordan, until everything was completed that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hurried and crossed. And when all the people had finished crossing, then the ark of the Lord and the priests crossed in front of the people. The sons of Reuben, the sons of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over in battle formation before the sons of Israel, just as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 equipped for war crossed for battle before the Lord to the desert plains of Jericho. On that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, so that they revered him, just as they had revered Moses all the days of his life. Now the Lord said to Joshua, "Command the priests who carry the ark of the testimony that they come up from the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, saying, "Come up from the Jordan."
Have you ever heard a song that you hadn't listened to in years? It's amazing how well we can recall lyrics a long time later, and yet we so easily forget God's goodness to us. The scripture we just heard offers those of us who are believers a good example to follow. God brought the Israelites out of Egypt and safely through the Red Sea. Then He miraculously provided yet another dry path by stacking the Jordan River's waters in an enormous heap upstream. The people were about to enter Jericho, and by God's power, they would overcome the city. How compassionate to encourage them with a tangible illustration of His strength before such a battle. But God also knew how easily they had forgotten Him before. So in His love, He had a plan to help the Israelites remember the miracle at the river. He told them to create an altar of 12 stones, each representing a tribe of Israel that had safely passed through the waters. This way, they would have a tangible reminder of divine rescue. Today, we likewise need help recalling God's involvement in our life. When He works in obvious ways, it's easy to trust Him. But as time goes on, we tend to forget. How can you create reminders of God's faithfulness? Whether it's by means of a journal or a note in your phone, make sure to remember the Lord's goodness to you.